Hello and welcome to the Brain Lunch with Kevin. Nice to
Hello.
meet you. Okay, so online we have Gizem Salar, and this is the first episode of the Brain Lunch with Kevin, the first interview about storytelling, right? In English language teaching.
Yes.
So we have Gizem Salar, English instructor, and also specialist in storytelling,
Storytelling.
adult storytelling. And I think you said you have a master's program. You're doing a master's program, right?
Yes.
In English teaching.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. So far, because this channel is very new, we talk about English language teaching, second language acquisition in general. Of course, or everything related to multiculturalism. Of course, related that has to do with languages, and of course, we're gonna have a few interviews sometimes with other people, other teachers and students to share some experiences together. So, in this first interview, we have storytelling in language teaching. So, this is a new teaching approach. So, we would like to know what is this approach exactly, and how does it relate to English language teaching in general?
Well, okay. First of all, let's talk about storytelling. Stories are the heart of how we communicate as humans. And when it comes to language teaching, stories are incredibly powerful because they really help with learning and retaining knowledge. I mean, a story provides what Krashen called comprehensible input, basically. So this makes it a super effective tool for learning. By listening to each other and sharing stories, students engage not only with their teachers, but also with their peers. And this interaction is crucial because it allows students to get help from those around them, whether it's a classmate or a teacher. Also, storytelling makes learning more engaging because it uses body language, facial expressions, voice changes, and things like repetition and rhymes to help students understand better and remember what they have learned. So, long story short, storytelling is a holistic approach to language learning. It relies on the idea that learners need to interact with rich and authentic examples of foreign language.
Mm. So actually, there is a kind of uh, group exercises. Is it? Can we say that is a task-based approach?
Oh, you can do it. Yeah, I mean, it's all up to you. You can mix it with anything, any approach. You can use task-based, or you can give projects. I mean, for my thesis, I was working with students, adult students, and I was using video games, for example, and mostly I was giving them projects and tasks and making groups to let them discuss, yeah. So you're right.
Mm. But because we know that language teaching emphasizes on enhancing the learner's skills. Like reading, writing. So how can we orientate storytelling in language teaching to enhance these skills actually? How can we use this technique to enhance, for example, let's say writing, reading, or the other two skills remaining?
Yeah. I always say that storytelling is a powerhouse. I love that word. It's literally a powerhouse for developing listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. And because stories, as I said, stories use rich and authentic language that students can relate and understand. And they are not just learning vocabulary or grammar, they are seeing how language works in real life contexts. That's the most important point, if you ask me. And this makes it easier for them to pick new words and understand complex sentences and improve their overall language proficiency. When students engage in, for example, retelling stories, or participating in role plays, or as you said, group works, they are practicing speaking in a way that also improves their fluency and pronunciation, and of course expressive abilities. It's a fantastic way to build confidence in using language spontaneously.
Ah,
Listening to stories, especially with cool sound effects, which I love using them in my classroom, creates an immersive experience that really helps with listening comprehension and memory. It's like you are in the story, which makes it easier to learn new words and sentence structures. And it's still, this idea is similar to comprehensible input from Krashen. I mean,
actually,
it's like
so
learn
actually,
language that's just within the learner's reach, you know?
so actually, all these sounds, effects, they contribute to the kind of immersion, like for proper immersion into the story. Okay, so they count as a meaningful inputs in the
Yes.
process of learning. I see.
And on the
So, but
writing side, we have a writing side. On the writing side, storytelling encourages students to craft their own narratives, which means they're organizing their thoughts, developing plot lines, mastering language conventions. This process not only sharpens their understanding of how stories are built, but also boosts their ability to express ideas clearly and creatively on paper. I mean, when we talk about the reading, it's not just about following the plot. Storytelling engages students in predicting what might happen next, questioning the characters' decisions, and summarizing the main points, maybe, and all of which evaluate their reading comprehension and analytical skills.
oh, so there is some kind of critical thinking somehow to an extent.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So, but you said something about teaching adults
Yes.
earlier, and we all know that when we mention storytelling, we know that most people are like, oh, it's just about kids, kids sitting and you just tell a sweet story to them. But when you say you teach adults, like, how do they react to this technique, to this approach?
Well,
Is it positive? Wouldn't are they like rejecting this approach, like, oh no, this is a kind of childish approach, permit me the term? So what is their reaction exactly?
I mean, at first they were surprised, and I mean, the reason that I was applying storytelling to adults is because the idea that storytelling is only for children, I wanted to prove the opposite. And as my research, I hope you will see it soon. The results were amazing. You just need to know your students well and their needs and their interests, so that, of course, they are surprised at first, but they enjoy it. With young learners, storytelling often focuses on simpler language and themes that are easier to understand, But you might use, more visual aids for young learners and interactive elements to keep them engaged. Repetition and predictable story structures are also common to help with comprehension and memory. But for adults, you can use more complex language and themes that are relevant to their interests and experiences. Adults might appreciate stories that relate to real life situations or current events, for example. They also benefit from discussions and reflections on the story's themes and messages. So different stories for each group, different length of stories, Yeah.
But when you talk about the arts of storytelling in English language teaching, there is another point, because so far we know that it's a very recent technique. Like
Yeah, we
many
can
people,
say that,
most,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure most people around, maybe those following this video right now, they never heard about this before. And even if they do, but so far we might think that it is the perfect approach, actually. But
Well, I
what
mean, I think for me it's a secret weapon in the classroom because the benefits of storytelling in teaching and learning second languages include enhanced language abilities, comprehension, and classroom interaction, regardless of learners' age or background, you know. And first off, it's fantastic for grabbing students' attention and keeping them motivated. I mean, you know how a good story can just pull you in and keep you hanging every word? That's exactly what happens with students. When you
but
start
what about
telling a
it?
story, it's like magic. They are hooked and they just want to know what happens next. This keeps them engaged and excited about learning. And about the brainy stuff, stories are great for cognitive development as well. They might help improve memory because students remember the plot, characters, and other details, some chants, songs, you know. And they also boost critical thinking skills, as I said, because students have to follow the storyline, make predictions, and understand different perspectives. Plus, it sparks creativity. When students hear or create stories, they use their imagination. And emotionally, stories create connections. They can make you laugh, cry, or feel inspired, you know. These emotional responses make learning more meaningful, if you ask me, and memorable. When students connect emotionally with the material, they are more likely to remember it and understand it deeply. And cultural understanding also is another big win. Stories expose students to different cultures, traditions, and ways of thinking. This helps
Neat.
broaden their horizons and fosters a greater understanding and appreciation of the world around them. They learn about diverse perspectives and become more empathetic and culturally aware.
Interesting.
And here's the cherry on top. Storytelling is incredibly adaptable. I mean, you can adapt it to any age group, learning style, or cultural context. Whether you're teaching
Learning
young
style.
learners or adults, storytelling can be tailored to fit their needs. It's a flexible tool that can be used in various ways, from simple bedtime stories to complex narratives that explore deep themes, as I said.
But what about its limitations so far?
Yeah, of course it has limitations.
What
For
can you tell me about
example,
limitations? Exactly.
well, storytelling can be pretty time consuming for teachers, first of all, because preparing and delivering a good story takes effort and time, which can be a big challenge. Finding the right story, practicing it, making sure if it fits into your lesson plan. It's not always easy. Also, stories can vary in effectiveness depending on the students, the audience. What resonates with one group might not connect well with another. One way to deal with this is to really get to know your audience beforehand, understand their background, what they're into, and what they might find interesting. That way, you can choose or adapt stories that are more likely to resonate with them. And another thing, it was also another thing is cultural sensitivity. I mean,
Oh,
you definitely don't want to choose a story that could offend someone or make them feel left out.
yeah.
Balancing all of that can be tough, especially in a classroom with a lot of diversity. So it's important to select stories that are culturally appropriate and meaningful to all your students.
Interesting. Interesting. So, but can do you think that I can be apply this as a teacher? I mean, do you think that I can apply this technique too?
Well, I mean,
Is it open to all teachers,
I strongly
or is
believe.
there a kind of special training for it?
I strongly believe that every teacher can be a storyteller because I mean that's what you do. I mean you're getting there in the classroom and you're teaching your students a topic. It's like I mean you're on the stage already. But effective storytelling is all about mastering different techniques to engage your audience, your students. One key, for example, one key method is using your voice, playing with tone, which I can't do that right now because of my... Hold on. I need some water, sorry.
It's all right. Feel free.
So yeah, as I said, the one key method is using your voice, playing with tone, pitch, speed to create, suspense or highlight important parts or set the mood. And these vocal skills really grab students' attention and make them feel connected to the story. And another one, for example, we can say physical expressiveness, using gestures, body language, and posture to visually illustrate the story's actions. Like you can think it as like acting, like drama class,
Yeah.
This makes the audience feel more immersed in the tale. And repetition is also a powerful method in storytelling. By repeating certain elements, storytellers can emphasize the key parts and make the story more memorable. This is why you often see recurring structures in oral traditions and children's stories. They help with understanding and memory. And lastly, I can say interactive strategies. This is the most
Interactive
important one.
strategies.
Yeah, this is the most important one if you ask me, because it's like asking questions or pausing for reflection gets the audience involved. This makes them feel like they are part of the story, which strengthens their connection to it.
So far, I think I got something, but I don't think as a teacher, because generally personally, for instance, I have difficulties to teach children, and I'm always more comfortable with youngsters or maybe adults even. So as a teacher, I find it more easier for me to teach adults actually, but using the technique like it's a teaching approach like arts of storytelling. I mean, using the gestures, making use of all the voice tone and everything. Can't we just say that somehow, because we know that some teachers are quite for introverts, for instance.
I am
There are
an
some.
introvert.
Ah, well,
Yeah, I mean, if I
so
can do it, everybody can do it.
what? Why not do a demonstration of?
Well, yeah, actually, I had a surprise for you.
Oh,
I thought as you were in Turkey, I thought you'd like to hear a Turkish story. It's very famous
ah,
here in Turkey. Have you ever heard of Nasreddin?
non-guilty.
All right, okay, so are you ready for Nasreddin's story?
Oh, please. I'm sure our dear followers here will love it.
All right.
And somehow we're also going to have a glance of it. So, for now, we have learned a lot about storytelling. We now know what is storytelling or what storytelling is all about. We know the pro and the cons, and also we understand that everyone can every teacher, language teacher of any language, of course, because I'm sure it's not just about English teaching. Any
Yeah.
language can use this technique.
Yes.
Okay, we understand that it's also open for all age students or learners, adults as well as children, which makes it even more interesting. We can use, of course, gestures. We can use sounds, voice tone for immersion, and which also contributes as meaningful inputs for students. Of course, we understand that the students can work as in groups, and they can create a kind of they can also have develop some kind of cognitive activities, and of course critical thinking. So yes, so far I think today we have learned something. Actually, I did, and I'm sure if you did as well, please let us know in the comments. Of course, you give a like, okay?
Yeah,
Don't forget
it's a
about it.
lot of
So,
information in a short time.
oh, you see, I got it. So please, you have the floor.
All
Take
right.
us to the fairyland.
Can you hear the sound effects, or should I raise the sound a bit
You can
more?
a little more.
A little more. Okay.
Yes.
It's all right. All right. Once upon a time, there lived a wise man known as Nasruddin. One evening, he found himself invited to a grand feast. However, Nasruddin was not aware the invitation and arrived wearing his everyday clothes. The dinner gathering was filled with distinguished men, all dressed in luxurious clothes. But when Nasruddin entered, no one acknowledged his presence. It was as though he was invisible. Nasruddin realized that his casual attire wasn't receiving any attention, so he left the gathering discreetly. Back at his home, Nasruddin retrieved a magnificent fur coat from his chest. This coat was so lavish that only people of great importance could afford such luxury. As Nasruddin re-entered the feast, the same guests who hadn't noticed him earlier now bowed and showed great respect. Nasruddin was seated at the head of the table, and the finest lamb was served in front of him. The guests eagerly awaited Nasruddin to begin the meal, but Nasruddin, with his fur coat hanging off the chair, began to say, "Eat my fur coat, eat!" The guests were confused and asked, "Who has ever seen a fur coat eat?" Without hesitation, Nasruddin responded, "A man isn't considered a man without a fur coat. My fur coat saw the meal, so let it eat." You liked it, huh?
This is a Turkish story.
Yeah.
Is it a kind of a myth or a Turkish myth story or something? Is it a kind of myth or is just like a story that people used to tell to children, just like that? Or is it inspired from a kind of real events or something?
No, it's a real person. Nasreddin lived in Nevşehir, I
Ah,
guess, yeah. Or Kırşehir. I'm not
really?
sure. Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
He
he's a real
even existed.
person.
Ah, interesting one.
Yeah, we have a
So,
lot of Nasreddin stories.
oh, please. And by the way, I'm sure that because I know in your channel you have you sometimes you upload stories that
Yeah.
yeah, please. So if you are interested, you can follow Gizem, of course. You can see bring, of course I will get the link. You have the link. I will share the link to her YouTube. You can follow Gizem, of course. If you have any question, you can text it directly. Of course they can, right?
Yeah, of
I
course,
hope
of
so.
course.
All right. If you have any question, you can you can ask Gizem directly about storytelling because I'm not a specialist. Okay, I'm not a specialist. So please, okay. So this was the Brain Lunch with Kevin. We had Gizem Salar here for storytelling in English language teaching, and we are so proud. We learned about a lot about the technique, the approach. We learned about the approach itself. We learned the pro and the cons, the advantages and disadvantages. And we even had a story by the specialist himself. So I hope you learned something. If you have any comments, please, if you have any comments or anything to say, please don't hesitate. You know what to do. Please don't forget to subscribe, of course. We have more coming up. Okay, we have more surprises coming up. Of course, the interviews, you will have more interviews with different professors, specialists all around the world. So stay tuned. See you.
See you.
See you.